Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Session 8 teaching memo and my Session 9 introduction. It appears the Yankees are giving up for this year. Too bad. I think the Mets still have a chance, but the Red Sox are definitely hanging in there. And the bad news is the Gilmore Girls are returning to Netflix in November. And I thought I was done with Stars Hollow. But I will be watching with Dr. Laura. My housekeeping, the workload has been perfectly light the past 2 weeks in order to allow you time to create, revise, take, and give feedback to your peers. Also, there's a lot of material to read about learning targets, how to write objectives, the verbs that you use for your learning targets, Chapui et al. Many of you have not looked at that. It will give you the guidelines for all four types of questions that you need to use. Several of you, instead of having fill in the blank questions, gave extended written response. So be careful. Chapui et al., Chapter 5, tells you that fill in the blank is either a one-word answer or a phrase. Now, a phrase is not a sentence. A phrase is not two sentences. A phrase is one or two or three words, and not a sentence. So keep that in mind. Make sure you look at those reviews. That's why I've given you this time to make sure you've done that. And also, of course, watching my test creation video. You also should be doing vocabulary in your own words. That's what I call an anchor activity. It's a activity that you work on throughout the course, throughout the semester. In your classes, you would have anchor activities that students would do for those students that are finished their work early. They get to work on their anchor activities. So my anchor activity is vocabulary in your own words. There's only one word this week, and that's educational defensibility. I've given you this activity so you can be filling it out as you go through in your own words. Remember, it has to be in your own words, but it also has to be correct, as I mentioned before. So educational defensibility is the only term that you're going to encounter in this session. So be filling that out as you go through the rest of the course so you're not overwhelmed. And at the end of the course, there's a lot of things you're going to have to do. Your final revision of your selected response test. There's a discussion board on assessment for learning. There's a 3-part analytic summary. There's a video worksheet that you're going to be doing next session. So it's going back to being a work intensive for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So make sure you spread it out and don't get bogged down. One of the things that I'm happy about this semester is that in the past I've been concerned about people not participating in the group process of taking and giving feedback on the draft select response test and on the revised tests, which we're going to do this week. This semester, because I am giving credit for doing this as part of your final selected response test grade. I hope you all knew that. I think you did because everybody is participating. So it's amazing that apparently what's get graded gets done. Same will go for this discussion board this week. It'll be pass-fail. The only way you'll lose any points is if you don't get it in by the end of the session. Then I will dock you points for timeliness, but everything else you'll get maximum. So that's an easy 100 to get averaged into your selected response final grade. Last week I introduced information about the Every Student Success Act, ESSA, of 2015, and I compared it to some of the mandates of the older No Child Left Behind. The information in last session's third video on teachers' annual professional performance review, APPR, and the Heidi score one receives and how it's determined are most important. Most of you will be affected by that. I do not believe that has gone away. The only thing that's been put on hold is that the state is not going to use test scores growth as part of a teacher's APPR. So that's there's been a moratorium on that. But Governor Cuomo and members of the Board of Regents are very upset that only 1% of teachers in the state received the Heidi score of 1, which can result in dismissal after 2 years. You all know why this has happened, because of the widget effect. And I have put a link here to the widget effect. Let's see if I still have it up here. No, I don't think I have it up here. But that is an effect that was, by research, has been shown that administrators have a tendency to evaluate teachers high. And my feeling is that, one, it's because they don't have time to do it correctly, or they don't have the skill in observing and analyzing teaching. Many principals were just promoted from the ranks, and there's a big difference between teaching and observing and analyzing teaching, as some of you will find as you move into the administrative area. Also, the information on the National Assessment of Educational Progress, I have a website here. You can download an overview of it. If you look at that carefully, you'll understand why we have Common Core standards, because the range of proficiency scores throughout the country is so wide, so disparate, that it's not fair. So if your child, and you move to, say, South Carolina, it's not right that you're going to get assessments and your students are going to score much lower than they would have if they stayed in New York. So keep that in mind. That's why it's important. That's why we have national standards, because of that disparity. All right, in Section 9, it's what I consider one of the more teacher relevant, because it deals with topics that are often front and center in the media and educational literature. Test preparation practices. I chose the Popham text because it devotes an entire chapter to it and he explains what he considers appropriate ways to embed test prep into your everyday teaching. Again, it will be important for you to watch my presentation, my video, because I go a little bit further with test prep. I also talk about the double entry journal that is due this week, and to what I think you should be connecting in the course materials. So if you want some good advice, watch that video. Many of you have reacted from personal experience about when talking or writing about large-scale standardized tests. You didn't do well, therefore you generalize that tests can't be good for all students. As I mentioned in my presentation, you can be sure that these tests are not going away. Now that Questar is creating our state assessments and NYSED, the New York State Ed Department, is calling for more teacher involvement, hopefully the tests will be improved. But you absolutely cannot pass along your distaste to them to your students. You need to check out the articles in Session 9 course materials, and I'll go there right now. If you go into coursework by week, which I will, most of the articles are located in Session 9, but I also placed some very good articles in Session 8 course materials handouts. So if you go into handouts, you'll see a myriad of test prep material, a lot of information on dealing with test anxiety, good ways to do test prep, which I also have in course Session 8. I'll go in there right now just to show you what's in there. In handouts, you'll see there is Doug Reeves' Writing, Not Test Prep, 5 Ways to Make Standardized Test Prep Engaging, a good article, and an article on adaptive testing, which I believe is the future of testing, and some of the new Common Core tests are adaptive tests. So that's it. Be forewarned that this week, an assignment, you'll submit your double entry journal on Chapter 8, and you'll do that in Session 8. So if you go into Session 8 course materials, I'm in Session 8 right now, so I'll just go into assignments, and you'll see that this is where you upload your double entry journal for grading. So there will not be a link in Session 9. It's in Session 8. So just one thing to keep in mind. what else do I want to talk about? Oh, you'll notice that there's a new discussion board where you're going there, and there are new discussion groups for your the next phase of your test creation process. In this group, it's different because I've combined two discussion boards. You're gonna post your revised test here. You're gonna download and take it, the tests of your group mates, and then you're gonna repost that test with your answers. And you can also give some feedback if you would like. Not mandatory, but you're gonna all do it. And while you're doing it, please take notes. What resources did you use? Chapuis et al., Chapter 5. You should be referencing that because that's where the guidelines are. Is this a trick question? Is another short pamphlet on how to create good select response test questions. My presentation, the EdTPA, you're going to reference all of those. So as you're doing this, you should be taking notes, especially on the test creation process, what worked the first time, what didn't work, or what didn't work the first time, what did work, what you did right the second time that you didn't do right the first time, all those things you'll be reflecting on in the three-part analytic summary. But in this part, you're going to be, this is what you're going to use for the first part of your analytic summary. What do I need to reteach? What were my test takers' results? And I talk about this. I have a three-part analytic summary a three-part analytic summary video, as you can expect. I have videos for everything. I'm not leaving you out in the cold. So make sure you do those things and look at the exemplars that I have, and you should get an A. It's this course is work, but the path to getting an A is all laid out for you. So that's it for this week. I will be talking to you again in 1 week. Good luck and get those tests posted.